Hello, and welcome to the Belmont Journal, Belmont's very own source for hyperlocal news and community updates. I'm Mike Crowley, your host this week. If you've been following the news, you're probably wondering about Eastern equine encephalitis, or EEE, and are we at risk here in Belmont? According to the health department, the risk here in Belmont at the moment is low, but EEE is present. Residents should take some precautions, including wearing pants, long sleeves, as well as using insect repellent when outdoors, and also be aware of the time of day because mosquitoes are most active between the hours of dusk and dawn. You can find more information on Belmont's Health Department website. There's a big change afoot on Bartlett Avenue, especially for residents who are afoot. The town has installed new sidewalks to increase safety and accessibility for everyone who walks there. Roger Colton met with Glenn Clancy, our Community Development Director, who tells us more.
The sidewalk and curbing project on Bartlett Avenue was really probably the first representation of implementing a curbing policy. From 2009 through the 2017 construction season, the policy in place for the pavement management program was you fix the street. You address the accessibility issues at corners with ramps, but there was no budget for curbing, there was no budget for sidewalk. And so you would go in, you'd fix a roadway, that would be the extent of the work that you do. Bartlett Avenue was one of the roads where the flaw in that policy, I guess, was exposed in that there were no existing grass shoulders for a majority of the roadway. And so when you get through fixing the road, repaving that road, you've got a nice asphalt road, but unfortunately you have asphalt shoulders, you have asphalt sidewalk. And so visually, as you look down a Bartlett Avenue after reconstruction, you're looking at a sea of asphalt essentially from front lawn to front lawn across that roadway. I couldn't be more pleased with the way that Bartlett Avenue came out. I think we really hit the goal here. Brand new sidewalk, concrete sidewalk, which improves pedestrian mobility. We added sidewalk in sections where sidewalk had not previously existed. And so from a mobility and a continuity point of view, we've improved that pedestrian experience along Bartlett Avenue. Now we have a shoulder that we can plant trees in if we want, to really help improve not only the aesthetics of the roadway, but some kind of functionality with tree planting and public shade tree and the benefits that they bring. The grass shoulder, to me, the primary purpose and the most important thing about that grass shoulder is it provides a buffer for pedestrians between the sidewalk and the roadway. It's a visual cue for both the pedestrian and the motorist. It provides a separation between where both activities are occurring. Another one of the benefits of reestablishing the shoulder, protecting it with a curb treatment, is that you now are forcing vehicles to stay in the roadway. That's another added benefit because as a pedestrian, before you do something like this, as a pedestrian, it's an uncomfortable feel for you, first of all, to be walking along a roadway that doesn't have that buffer. The added challenge is that as you're walking along that roadway, you now run the risk of running into a parked vehicle because there's no constraint, there's nothing to keep that car in the roadway. They'll pull right up on the shoulder, and in some cases, right up on the sidewalk. So an added benefit of adding the curb treatment is to keep the vehicles in the roadway where they belong when they're parked. It's a success all around as far as I'm concerned.
Welcome to This Week in the Citizen Herald, and I'm joined in the studio by Joanna Juvelis, Senior Multimedia Journalist with the Citizen Herald and Wicked Local Belmont. Welcome, Joanna. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
All right. So let's talk about the skating rink.
Okay. So there's a lot of talk about the skating rink because, as everyone knows, the Skip Figliarolo skating rink is failing.
It's on its last legs.
So the town is getting ready to send out a request for proposal for a public-private partnership to secure a private developer to build, operate, and maintain the rink. This is huge. This is like history in Belmont.
And part of the reason for going down this path is simply the cost of construction where the town is now in terms of
just
its
don't.
finances.
Exactly, we don't have the money. But there is a lot of concern about the timing of this because of the Belmont High School project happening. But they have to, they said we have to at least try and see what happens. So they have a draft of an RFP and a lease, which is available for people to look at online. You can go to the town website and you can see it. It's 50 pages long, but I think it's worth looking at.
It is.
And then there are several important dates to make note of. One is a public hearing on September 16th, where residents can go and learn about this RFP and lease and weigh in on it. They want public input.
Right, and this will be 7 p.m. at the Beach Street Center.
Right, and then there's 2 other opportunities where the public can voice their opinion or comments. September 23rd, there's a select board meeting, 7 p.m. in the
Right.
town hall, and the school committee meeting on September 24th, which is always in the Chenery Community
Yes.
Room. So what's important to know is that the school committee is expected to vote September 24th because technically the school committee owns the property, so it's their decision.
The school's on the property. And
Right, but they're working very closely with the select board. So the select board's also going to vote. And then on September 25th, they're going to send out this RFP. And then October 30th, they hope to have some responses in hand. And then there's a very quick timeline between October 30th and the November 13th special town meeting where they're hoping to have a finalist that town meeting will ultimately vote on. And then November 26th, the school committee and select board will hopefully vote on a contract. But there's
So-
a lot of info here that I've left out.
Very fast process.
Yes, very fast.
And
But
a lot
what-
of hope that we'll find
Yes.
someone interested in doing the project.
Well, what's important to know is when you look at the RFP and the lease, that the town has left no stone unturned. They want to make sure that the recreation and high school is getting the hours they'll need for the rink. And there's just a lot of, there's a very strong selection criteria
Sure.
that they're going to choose the finalists from, such as they want to make sure that they still have 110 parking spaces and 3 JV fields. Locations for those, as well as 2 throwing circles. So there's a lot of criteria that these respondents have to meet to even become a finalist. So we'll see what happens with that.
So let's talk about the intersection at Sycamore and Lexington.
Yes, the intersection that's known as being a dangerous intersection and where a young mother was killed while crossing in the crosswalk on her way to work last year.
Really tragic.
It is very tragic. And so the town since then has done a lot to increase pedestrian bicycle safety because of the concerns voiced by people in these neighborhoods where there's a lot of dangerous intersections. And what they did is they did a traffic study. They did a study to see if that intersection warrants a traffic light, and the results are yes, it does. It does warrant a traffic light. They have a design in hand. The Transportation Advisory Committee is recommending this design. The Select Board ultimately have to make the decision.
So do we expect that they'll be voting on this soon?
I don't have a date, but I do expect it will be soon. There is funding, I believe, that David Rogers, State Rep David Rogers, got to put towards this.
That's right.
Not to pay for the whole thing, but a good amount. I think $100,000 to help pay for it, maybe even $150,000. But residents are still very concerned about speed.
Yes.
They're concerned about traffic backup. They're concerned about noise that the traffic signal will make for visually impaired pedestrians. But the town said this is really the best thing to do to make it safer for pedestrians, especially with this tricky left-hand turn, which is what killed Sachi Thanawala. Someone was turning left from Sycamore onto Lexington.
All right, well, let's hope that the process goes well and that we get a traffic light installed soon. Thanks so much, Joanna.
You're welcome.
And we'll talk to you next time. Welcome to This Week in the Belmontonian, and I have with me Franklin Tucker, editor of the Belmontonian. How are you, Franklin?
Just fine, thank you. It's raining outside, but I made it here.
And which is the big surprise.
Yeah, I know.
So police chief search, what's up with that?
Well, it's a rather interesting process. The screening committee had their first meeting last week, and they pretty much laid out the how they're going to be going about looking for a chief.
Because our current chief, Chief McLaughlin, is retiring at the end of December?
That's right, and we need somebody quickly.
Okay.
Right now, what's going forward is a process of where we're going to be looking at internal candidates. And right now, there are 5.
Oh, we have 5 internal candidates.
That's right. I
That's
think
interesting.
it's not really public knowledge, but if you just ask around, it's like the worst kept secret in Belmont. You know who these people are, and they're all very well known, and they're all well respected in town. So I think it's going to be a process where in the next couple of weeks the screening committee is going to be talking individually in executive session to each one of these candidates.
Okay.
And they'll be asking them about their one-year plan. That's something that they had to put in their application, and then they'll go and ask them several questions, many of which will be done by the consultant.
Okay.
And there has been a little bit of not a dispute in the screening committee, and that had to do with should we open it up to outside people?
Because the question is, if we're going with an internal candidate, are we locking ourselves into a certain culture when perhaps we ought to be keeping an open mind about other people who may bring other skills and other viewpoints?
That's right. And some of the people who were there also made the point that Chief McLaughlin came from Arlington, even though he was a longtime Belmont resident. And the one of the people who brought that aspect up was one of the people in the screening committee who is the police chief in Natick. And he says he had been a police chief elsewhere, and each time he was an external candidate. What that does is it brings a fresher thinking to it. You may look at how people are set up in a culture, like you said. So it's going to be a rather interesting thing. So what's going to happen is that the Board of Selectmen, or the Select Board, has asked for at least 2 candidates, and then they will select between those 2 candidates. Now, if those 2 candidates aren't what the Select Board are looking for, then we go external.
Okay, so it's the Select Board that's ultimately making that decision.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, well, we'll see what happens, but the decision will have to be made,
Relatively soon.
Yeah, okay. So there's a question about artificial turf at the new middle and high school that's under construction.
That's right. There's been, as you know, as a member of the school committee, what happened is that they're looking for a turf field, a second turf field that will be called the rugby field. That will be right next to the field house. What has been decided is that we're going to kick that can down the road for a year. It really is one of those situations where the school committee agreed with the building committee, who is building that, that we will just, like they said, we are going to bring your concerns, which are about health concerns, especially about the crumb rubber.
Involving what kind of infill is used on the artificial turf field.
That's correct. And basically they said, we've heard you, we will bring this back, and in about a year from now, when we actually fund this, we will come back with a decision. And I think that was the plan all along. It was a good deal for both sides.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Franklin.
Thank you.
Here's some concerning news. Belmont High School's head football coach Jan Kumin has been diagnosed with skin cancer, but the diagnosis doesn't change how he's approaching the start of the football season. He plans to keep going, and he's pushing all of his athletes, and he's a bright, shining example to all of us. It goes without saying that we wish him all the best and for a speedy recovery. Joanna Juvelis spoke with him.
I was diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma in June. Had a full neck dissection. Doctor took 64 lymph nodes in my tonsils, 2 tumors, one from my tonsils and one out of a lymph node here. Caught it early, stage 1. I've been in radiation. I got 8 more treatments now, 2 weeks left of radiation. And just trucking forward one day at a time. I'm really grateful to be able to be out here on the football field with my guys and coach this game. I'm really lucky to have their support and the support of my staff and my family with what's been a tough few months.
See, that last one was sitting like out here, and that one finished kind of down in this chestal region. There it is. Awesome. Now back up 5 yards, Brody. Same drill. Same drill. There it is, Broderick. Get more vertical. Very nice, Avery. Love it. Don't worry about the spiral. It'll come. Whew. There it is. Awesome. Hold, Avery.
Hip loads.
Coach Q's done a lot for me, he's kept me safe. It's always good to have a routine, so lifts. He's like a father to most of us, so when we all found out he had cancer, it really hit most of us seniors hard because we have known him for 4 years and we've created bonds in the off season, and he just knows us so well, so he's like a father figure to us. So honestly, he means a lot to most of us.
And I just love the atmosphere on Friday night at Harris. We got the best marching band in the state, so the marching band's out. We got a great cheerleading corps. They're out. The tailgate barbecue smoke is going. It's high school football. When I came here, there weren't a ton of people in those stands. And now pretty much every home game we're sold out, and that's just something that's truly special. Once we got that going, Belmont really got behind all of us. So it's a tight-knit community. Everybody knows each other. It's a really great place to be a coach and to be a football coach. I'm blessed with great young men, who are just coming out every day, and their work ethic is fantastic, and like I said, the attitude is fantastic. So, we're really enjoying the culture that we've been able to build here.
What I'm looking forward most is, the success that I know we will have because of the effort we've put in the off season, and then now, it's all about effort. If you don't have effort, you're not going to go anywhere. So, I'm excited to get on the field Friday nights with the boys. There's nothing like it, honestly.
Belmont just celebrated its second annual Porchfest, which was a great success. And something new this year was a bike valet service to help people bicycle to the grand finale at PQ Park. Operated by Mass Bike and sponsored by our very own Roger Colton and his wife, Anne Luget, the Belmont Journal was there to talk with Mass Bike about the valet service and its advocacy to increase bike riding.
So we're here at Belmont Porchfest doing bike valet so that folks who show up to enjoy the music and enjoy the company of their neighbors don't have to feel like they have to drive if it's not convenient. You can just park your bike and we'll watch it. My name is Tom Francis. I'm with Mass Bike. I'm Deputy Director. Mass Bike is the statewide for Massachusetts bike advocate. One of the things that Bike Valet does is if an event doesn't have a whole lot of space for parking or doesn't have access to public transportation, it's a great way to have people show up. A lot of times there's not enough space for people to park bikes. If you look here, to leave your bike, you'd have to lock it up to the fencing around the park.
Like code check, having a first name and a cell phone in case at the end of the night we have too many bikes.
So a bike valet service is just like coat valet at a fancy restaurant. Essentially it runs on racks, tape, and tickets. What you do is you fill out a ticket. We usually want a first name and a cell phone. Sometimes we end up with too many bikes at the end of the night. I don't think that'll be the case here. We just rack the bikes up. They hang by the seat post, by the seat on the edge of the racks, and that way they don't get bumped, they don't get jostled, and it's a great way to leave your bike. When you have an event and people show up by bike, nobody while they're driving next to each other in a car will stop and say, "Hey, you going to Porchfest? Did you see this stuff over on Grant Street?" On a bike, you'll just talk to people, make eye contact, have a lot more interaction with your neighbors and the other people at the event, even people who aren't biking. So it's a great thing. I'm always surprised at how many people show up with kids in tow for bike valet events, and the kids ride, and sometimes it's a trailer, sometimes they ride their own bikes. It's an activity that you can do for your entire life, and it's easy to do for your entire life. It's just a lot of fun to ride a bike, and there's a lot of opportunities here in Belmont. Side streets, bike paths, bike lanes that you can get around. It's easy to do, despite the hills of Belmont. So getting out on a bike is just a lot of fun.
Belmont's 2 Scub Scout packs had their annual family sign-up event at the Chenery Field this past weekend. Scout leader David Amello explains to the Belmont Journal what scouting offers to the kids as well as to the parents.
When we were kids, everybody went outside, you went to the park, you rode your bike. They don't do that now. But Cub Scouts will give you that break away from electronics. They'll enjoy themselves in a way that, in activities that they might not do otherwise. They'll learn first aid. One of the activities that they do at a certain level is getting out of your house in an emergency. They draw a little diagram. It gets them to think about it. And that's what Cub Scouts will do as well, is just get them, introduce them to these different activities that's not electronic, that will get them to think about it. Cub Scouts, unlike a sports activity, is much for the child as it is for the parent. Sports activities, you're a spectator. The coach will take over, and a lot of coaches put their souls into their activities. Cub Scouts will allow a parent to be there and work on activities with your child. It's really hands-on as opposed to spectator. We have websites, is pack377.com and pack384.com. And the Girl Scouts have their websites. You can Google Girl Scouts. You can fill out the online registration, and we'll put you on the mailing list, and then you'll start to receive emails regarding pack times, the pack meeting, and the den meetings. The parents are going to see their kids grow. We have a lot of activities, school, sports, but Cub Scouts is an activity that your child has something different to do every month. There's a different project, a different activity that you're going to see them smile and be proud of.
And now it's time for our community calendar with Jane Peters, who tells us all about what's happening and what you can look forward to in Belmont this week.
Hi everyone, I'm Jane and this is your community calendar for next week. Habitat's Meadow is full of a symphony of sounds in the heart of September. Take a walk to the meadow and listen to all types of nature's music in Habitat's Going to Look for Crickets program on Tuesday at 10. Register for this and other programs at massautobahn.org. The Arlington Council on Aging and Beach Street Center are hosting their Love is Love party on Tuesday at 4:30. Mix, mingle, and share your love stories at this welcoming event celebrating love however you define it. Do you have an hour or two to spare each month? Do you enjoy helping your friends and neighbors? The Belmont Council on Aging is launching a volunteer driver program in response to the overwhelming need for senior transportation. Drop in on Tuesday anytime between 3 and 5 to learn more about how to volunteer with the program. The library's book discussion group meets on Wednesday at 3 to discuss Shanghai Girls by Lisa C. The group meets on the third Wednesday of every other month, no registration required. And you can get a head start on November 20th's book, The Other Einstein by Marie Benedict, now. You can see books and meeting dates for all of the library's book clubs, including a classics book club, cookbook club, and more on the library's website. Pine Cones and Needles and Palladian Dolls are teaming up for a doll making workshop on 6 consecutive Wednesday evenings starting next week. Students will create their own Waldorf-inspired 14-inch doll with your choice of skin, eye, and hair color and style. Cushing Square's annual Fall Festival is Saturday, September 21st from 11 to 4. The festival will be host to rides, a beer garden, face painting, a petting zoo, local food, beer and wines, and more. Bring the whole family down to celebrate the start of fall. Belmont Books has More Than Books on Sunday at 9:30. Kids ages 2 to 6 can join in a free yoga class with groundwork, yoga, and wellness. Adults are welcome to participate with their children. Sign up is required. A maximum of 12 children will be able to sign up. And that's all for next week. If you'd like your event featured in Belmont Journal's community calendar, you can send your event info to Jane at belmontmedia.org.
We end our program with a programming update for your Belmont Media Center channels. Be sure to watch. I'm Mike Crowley. This is the Belmont Journal, and we'll see you next time.